Be a lot of questions. Go over a little bit more. Space. Just hello. Just remember all the mobile clinic when we give you during the hurricane. And my first man come save you. And I'll remind you of that. Huh? Oh, yeah. No, we don't give bribes. We don't give bribes. We look after the Jamaican people.
We now have the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I would suggest to the ministers as we move forward to condense their opening, and we can go and yes, and the responses, and we move forward.
Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr.
In a concise way.
Mr. Chairman, my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. I will forego my opening remarks and go straight to questions.
Member Dawes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, let's start with the objectives, because I assume that is a justification for a 30 billion or 20% increase in the approved estimates. Increase in capital, increase in recurrence. So the justification is the objectives, right? So we're seeing where one of the objectives is reduce in the mortality of non-communicable diseases by a third by 2030. I can't think of any country that has ever done that in 5 years. Data is there for Finland, that took a generation, Thailand, that took a generation, but this is pretty ambitious. You stand by this objective. I'm not here. Okay. All right.
The question is?
The question is this an adequate justification we can expect that this is what you're aiming for?
Okay, so this is the government that also reduced debt from 140% to just over 65%. So it is possible.
All right.
As well as significant reduction in crime and homicide rate. So if you're asking me if we're ambitious, yes, we are. If you're asking me that it will involve a lot of work, yes, it will. And later on, we can go into some of the things that we're doing to try and achieve it. So we prefer to set our targets high and work towards them.
Minister, the person who set the targets for the objectives and the KPIs, they never spoke to each other, because the KPIs for hypertension, which is a leading cause of death, it has remained flat throughout the course of the next projected couple of years, when you're supposed to be decreased it by a third. So hypertensive will not go down. Then one of so yeah, it's 31% flat to 2030 according to your KPIs. So you're saying that the performance indicators for these projects will mean that hypertension will not decrease, but deaths from chronic diseases, of which hypertension is a major contributor, will fall by 30%. That doesn't reconcile at all, Minister. Also, we
Sorry, is that
there was a
is that a question or?
well, I'm saying, how do you reconcile the two, where your KPIs are flat,
So let me.
but you have a 30%
Okay.
reduction in the objectives?
So allow me to respond if it's a question. So first of all, there's a difference between debts. Mike, check. There's clearly a difference between debts and a particular affliction. Hypertension being flat doesn't necessarily mean that people will die from hypertension. There are a number of things that we're doing to cauterize and control non-communicable diseases. And you will agree as a medical practitioner that you don't change these things radically overnight, but you can control them. And there are a number of programs that we have in the ministry now, programs that have been announced, and programs to come which we believe will control conditions while we work with the very young within the school system through things like nutrition policy to adjust diet and hopefully over time erase or certainly minimize those particular conditions.
All right. I mean, I don't want to go too much into the medical thing, but if you have a constant number without a commensurate increase in preventative services, I'm not seeing where a lot of the funding is going towards the actual treatment.
On what basis do you say we don't?
Because we all right, well, when we go into the capital, we'll discuss the chronic diseases program, which is primarily infrastructural based.
When we get there, we can discuss.
All right, good. The other thing that we wanted to look at through the objectives, man, I had all day to prepare.
Member, stick to the question. No side talking, please.
Thank you, Chair. Priority staffing gaps to be reduced by 5%. What is the baseline where it's coming from? Because we know that it is very easy to say you have an improvement if you convert contracts to posts. So what have you done enough studies to see what is the precise number of vacant funded posts by categories? And given that the compensation of employees has increased by 18 billion to 20 or 20%, is this a net increase in filled posts or primarily salary adjustments?
It's a combination of both. So the intention is to provide funding in consultation with the Ministry of Finance as the complement of staff increases. The strategy, as you perhaps would have heard, is to do a number of things. Firstly, we're going to expand training by virtue of building out more hospitals. So clinical rotation space will be more available, given that we will have additional capacity, more operating theaters, more bed space from the build out. But secondly, to collaborate cross-border for more recruitment and training. You would have heard that we had a visit to India, to the Philippines. We have MOUs to sign with Ghana, that would have been public also, Nigeria. And at the core, we also did some ads in the diaspora and got responses, just as a case in point, from 136 potential interests, not all from the diaspora, but quite a bit from the diaspora. And we're now in the process of vetting those applications. So there is a multi-pronged approach towards staff improvements, increases. And so the positions that have been created will be supported by the multi-pronged approach. And we're hoping for the best to achieve those objectives.
I'd just like you to answer the question, though, about the precise number of vacant funded posts.
I will have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I don't have that kind of precision memory.
All right.
But you can pose questions or I can get back to you on it.
Okay. Another objective is to conclude 85% of key infrastructural projects within cost, scope, and schedule by 2030. 85%. Currently, the baseline is 0%. Every project in the capital budget has time and cost overruns. significantly. What specific structural reforms to project management, procurement, oversight, and contractor accountability have you implemented to move from 0% to 85% in 4 years?
Well, I'm not sure that you're correct in terms of 0%. The most structured capital project that we have, which started late, but has caught on in terms of time and is on budget, is the health system strengthening project, which is led by the IDB, EU, and GOJ. We're building out Spanish Town Hospital, which is slated to finish by first quarter next year. We have St. Jago, Old Harbour, and Portmore health centers, which are slated to be completed this year. Clearly, we have had time overruns and some cost adjustments for Cornwall. Western Child and Adolescent may actually attract some overruns, but that's a gift from the Chinese government. And there are other projects, if you're looking to the next 5 years, which are coming on stream based on the Melissa damage, based on the projects involving the university tower, and others that I will speak to later on, where we hope to learn from some of the challenges that we've had in the past, and assuming no unexpected circumstances like a hurricane or otherwise, we're going to work to ensure that we keep cost and time in check.
All right, we'll revisit that when we go to the capital budget. Going to sub-program 2, activity 1001, there is a subsection 31 on the recurrent budget that's titled land for 310 million, with a further 310 million over the next 3 years. What is land, Minister?
Okay, so the Type 5 clinic in Montego Bay is bursting at its seams. It's a very busy clinic. It is exactly beside a piece of land, formerly the Montego Bay Ice Factory. And we, through the NLA and the regular procurement process, made an offer and have had an agreement to purchase that land with the intention of doing a design to expand the Type 5 clinic and also to provide better parking at that facility. So that's the contract has been signed. I think there has been a down payment already. So the budget that you see there is to complete that transaction for the Type 5 clinic expansion.
Is that proper accounting, though, to have a capital project such as that broken up and listed on the recurrent?
It's appropriate if it involves just the purchase of the land.
So what exactly is the value of the land then? Because we're seeing 310 million every year for 4 years.
I don't do those transactions. I can get that detail for 4 years. No, the land is far less than that. So if you see,
well, it's what you have here, Object 31.
The land is less than 300,000. So I'd have to.
We're seeing over $1 billion for that line item. So I think it probably should be revisited.
Oh, I'm told it should not have been repeated.
Okay.
It's one figure.
But you're sure it should be under recurrent rather than capital?
I'm being advised by the financial purchase
acquisition.
Purchase of land, I'm told, can actually be placed where it is.
Under recurrent?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, Minister, let's, before I move on to capital, Jamaica Cancer Society, is that only $1 million that they're getting?
Can you give me the line item, please?
Line item, that's page 42,006 on the auxiliary healthcare services. If we're really talking about reducing deaths from chronic diseases, I mean, $1 million for Cancer Society, you think that's enough?
Well, it's a subvention, but you're assuming that's the only effort that is being put out to reduce cancer-related illnesses. Clearly, the government has its own program. Jamaica Cancer Society is an NGO, and we work with them both with the subvention but on specific programs. The agencies of government like the NHF and others work with them also. So they'll certainly benefit more than what is here, but this is a definitive subvention that we give to them and other NGOs.
Well, I mean, they do quite a bit of screening, and we are lacking in that aspect. So I would think that if we can empower them, it would assist somewhat. $1 million is really a drop in the bucket. All right. Going back to the capital budget. So initially, well, sorry, let's pull this up here. Okay. All right. So going back to what we had discussed further about the timelines and the costing. So the Western Children's Adolescent Hospital, the original completion date was set for March 2022. We're 4 years and 9 months behind. Our initial contribution outside of what the PRC committed was $7 billion. Now we're up to $10 billion. The prevention and care management of NCDs, I'm not sure, you can probably guide me with this, if it is that we have added additional clinics and hospitals outside of the 3 hospitals and 10 clinics. We have moved from initially the December 2023 to now December 2028, an additional 5 years. Budget moving from 8 billion, and that is outside of what the multinationals are assisting us with, to 21 billion, 165% increase. Cornwall, as you had mentioned before, we all accept that that is the largest increase in any capital expenditure in the Ministry of Health. Move from an initial total estimate of 5 billion to now 21 billion, with the initial completion date scheduled for March 2023. We are now at January 2028. Well, going after this, yeah, 2018. Well, when they started the works, it was 2023. It was. Then we look at the redevelopment and modernization of UHWI. Initially, the total estimate was 7 billion. Now we are at 16 billion, 131% variation. And we haven't started as yet, really, outside of the parking lot. Initially, it was scheduled to be completed December 2026. Now the revised completion date is March 2029, an additional 2 years and 3 months. So a combined total in all 4 projects, we're moving from an initial total estimated cost of 27 billion to now we are at $69.9 billion, more than $42 billion, 154% increase, with every project overrun in its original completion date, scheduled slippage, 2 years, 3 months to 5 years. So it does give you a baseline of 0% completion on time and without overruns compared to the ambitious 80%.
Okay, so let me respond. So first of all, I think when you describe the situation that way, it does give an impression, but context is very important.
I'm just using your numbers.
No, yeah, but let me respond. I listen to you. Context is very important. One of the part of the context that is ignored by your statement is the intervention of unplanned events, COVID being the most substantial unplanned event. For 3 years during the COVID period, very little could have been done in terms of executing on many of these capital projects, Cornwall Regional being certainly one, because of the circumstances around confronting COVID. So as it relates to timelines on those projects, or the projects that were crafted during that period, you would have obviously had those delays to contend with. Beyond that, when you have delays, it has implications for cost. in some instances. In the case of Cornwall Regional, I've been at pains to explain that Cornwall Regional was a rescoping of a project that started off to repair one process and then ending up scrap in the building totally to literally rebuild the hospital. And I believe that has been explained not just by me, but by the experts, including the engineers that we have hired, who are a part of the quality assurance and the quality control. So the point is, for each of those projects, there's an explanation as to why we are where we are. UHWI, that project was conceived and started before the administration. In fact, it was initiated out of the University of the West Indies, not even so much the Ministry of Health, in terms of its initial designs and its initial cost estimates. When it became time to be pursued from a procurement standpoint, there was a revision of what was required in order to complete and to adjust the design to be more appropriate for the institution, hence the costing. As you have pointed out correctly, the project has not started. So I'm not sure that you can claim overrun for something that has not started to be constructed as yet, except for the car park. The contract was awarded based on an evaluation of the cost at the time when it was pursued in terms of procurement, even though it was conceptualized many years before that. There are other projects which you have not mentioned that have kept to some timelines and some cost, like parts of the IDB project. I outlined some of those to you. So I wouldn't say that is 0%. What I would say, though, is that those projects that you have referenced, there has been a context to why the cost had to be rescoped and timelines were missed, particularly in the context of COVID. And the projects are now in full swing. And I believe that ultimately the consumers, the patients, and Jamaicans will get the appropriate benefits from the project once they are completed.
All right. As we're at UHWI, the Auditor General had flagged several procurement breaches, about $500 million of projects that had no documentation for it. With the same management, the same board in place, even when we are facing a revolt against senior management by the staff currently, are you confident giving that same institution $1.38 billion with all of the procurement issues presided by over the same management that is there now?
Well, first of all, I am not going to comment too much on the Cornwall issue. I note the UWI issue. I've heard you comment extensively on it and appear to have sometimes more information than I. What I will say, however, is that it's not the same management. There is a different manager in the institution, Mr. Eric Hussein. The board has been adjusted, but the chairman remains the same. The chairman did not preside over the entire process. And as you know, or should know, the board is made up of nominees from various entities, not just from the minister's nomination. In fact, as Minister of Health and Wellness, I nominate a minority of the board members of the University Hospital, 8 of 18. The others coming from the University of the West Indies and from a few other medical bodies. So it's while I could have changed the nominee for chairman, in my judgment, I thought he could manage with the board members that were there and others that were nominated, and the change management. Plus, of course, you would have heard that we appointed an oversight team to look at the institution with all of its complexities and to make some recommendations, which I'm awaiting in another month or 6 weeks. They have 3 months or so. When we get that report, we will make whatever decisions around what is being recommended. It's a competent team. There are representatives from the University of the West Indies, from the private sector, and they possess, I believe, the skill sets to assess the systemic challenges at the university, which are challenges that has a historical context, as you know, well before my time in terms of procurement processes and so on. But I'm not prepared to cast any judgment as of now until that report comes forth. And at that point, we will comment more authoritatively on it. And that will find its way as far as the cabinet for its guidance.
So I should take it from your statements that the CEO is currently on vacation leave, is not coming back. Because you said there's a new CEO.
There's a new acting CEO. I make no judgment.
But the CEO is on vacation.
Yes.
So he's technically still the CEO.
There is a CEO on the job working, which is not the same,
until the CEO comes back from vacation.
No, listen to me, member.
We're talking about the $1.3 billion.
Member,
it's not going to be spent.
You're going to ask a question and allow the minister to answer. Please.
There is a CEO on the job now. There's a CEO on the job now. And there's a board with a board chairman, and there's a committee that is assessing to provide some information.
What I'm asking, Minister, is how long is the tenure of the acting CEO, and will he still be in place after the CEO who has tenure comes back from his vacation?
And I'm saying to you that the board, the board provides the guidance on those decisions. And I have confidence in the board to make that decision when the time comes. There are many things that are happening at this point in time. You will recall that the board called in the fraud squad, for example, who are investigating. I don't know where those investigations are going to lead, or who may be implicated, or what may be the results. There are members here, yourself included, who have spent time defending your own involvement or lack thereof. I cast no judgment on that either. So what I'm saying, it's a very fluid situation. From my vantage point, I have appointed a board with a chairman, a committee to look at the systemic challenges within the institution, and there's a temporary CEO to govern the day-to-day activities. And I believe that's the best we can do at this point until further notice based on all else that is happening.
So it's safe to say that there is no new CEO. There's no newly appointed CEO.
Can you move on to the next question? Because obviously
we have a CEO in place for 4 weeks while somebody's on vacation. Why are you still here at your age? Go home and play with your grandparents, man.
Member.
Go play with your grandchildren and
Next question. Next question. May I remind you, member, that you're not the chair here. And two, when the member who is given the floor diverted into having, you are not the chair. Members.
Mr. Chairman, can we continue?
I am going to ask Member Garvey, please stop. And if I have to rule, I don't want to go down that. I don't want. If you continue, and I'm going to say this now, any member who is given the floor to speak, you should do so. And don't pay attention. I've asked you on more than one occasion. Pay attention, and you're not the chair. You're not the chair. And please, don't let me have to name. I'm going to start again. Remember, we have one chairman. Two, whenever I give the floor to the person with the mic, the person who is speaking has the floor and has the protection. Do not pay attention. If you
Mr. Chairman, listen, if I may, I am in the chair and I am prepared to respond to the questions, and we don't need to do it in a disrespectful way. The member has an opportunity to ask his questions, and the idea of an age being in this house, the member from West Kingston has the highest number of votes in the last election, and that's the only thing that qualifies him to be here. Nothing else, not his age or anything else. But in other words, let's just move on. Let's move on. But these are important issues. So go ahead, through you, Chair. Go ahead, member, with your questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Going now, Minister.
Yes, go ahead.
To head 4234, Bellevue Hospital. We have spoken quite a bit about mental health.
Yes.
And destigmatization. In a recent visit to Bellevue, I can assure you Bellevue is not an 800-bed facility. Some wards are unusable. They're in a deplorable state, and they cannot house patients. Patients are frequently, I'm told, turned away. But yet there is no capital budget. And this hospital is not included in any of the capital projects.
What's the question?
The question is, why doesn't Bellevue have a capital budget so it can have proper facilities, repairs, expansion, since we value mental health so much?
All right, so I do agree with you, member, that mental health is a real challenge. And the truth is, Bellevue has been doing a very good job in managing its component of that portfolio. The other aspects of it being the parish mental health teams that are across the country and hospitals and in the field. So you can't assess the mental health function by just looking at Bellevue. Having said that, Bellevue is the premier mental health institution. There is a 200 million in the budget to support technical studies to look at the redevelopment of Bellevue. Now, where are we with that process? It's now in the final stages of the procurement process. The intention, and I believe I had spoken to it before, is to build a 100-bed acute facility, a new building, as part of the new Bellevue in terms of inpatient care, acute care, as well as to look at the rest of Bellevue to determine how best to move it forward. So what I'll assure you and the country is that over the next few years, the Bellevue will be transformed to representing a more modern mental health facility, as well as supporting the other elements of mental illness in the field, where, according to the 2016 Earl Wright report on mental health and homelessness, more of the mental health functions are to be conducted in communities as opposed to institutionalization. That's a new approach. And we have started that process.
As you speak about reintegration or doing mental health work in the communities, you speak about an increase in the reintegration rates, yet you have cut the occupational and reintegration budget. How can you demand more with less?
So first of all, your interpretation is incorrect. Let me try and just clarify the vision for you. The vision is to focus on treating patients within their communities through outreach, to institutionalize less. And the Bellevue operation itself had most of its patients there, more than half, who were there more as social cases. So persons whose conditions were controlled through medication or otherwise, but had nowhere to go. And as a consequence, were living at Bellevue as a social case. Part of the overall redevelopment is to separate the population, move those out or somewhere else, some sort of a halfway house, for want of a better terminology, and to minimize inpatient care by treating acute cases within a period of time and then managing those cases outside of the institutionalization.
The problem with that, Minister, is that you cannot treat them acutely if you have no beds.
I just spoke to you about the expansion plans.
The expansion, but what about now?
Well, people are there now, and there are always short-term efforts to improve the conditions if there needs to be. But the transformation of Bellevue is going to be a much more comprehensive project. And I can assure you, member, that during the course of this financial year, we will unveil what that transformation will look like in terms of concrete, mortar, and bed count, and where the focus will be. But again, let me emphasize, the issue is not to institutionalize, and that's the best practices globally, by the way. I'm going by the advice of the experts, and I would certainly commend the 2016 report, Mental Health and Homelessness Task Force report, which is available to give you some indication as to what we're working on and what we have been working on.
I understand the plan for greater community-based care and call it downsizing of Bellevue that has been around from about 2007. But it's not.
I'm referring you to the more modern, recent 2016 report.
The idea has been around, but it's not working. Every now and again, we hear about somebody who assaults someone. We've heard the horror stories, chopping up someone, grabbing a policeman's gun, using a hammer, and then the community descends on them. And all of this stems from poor community management. When you have an acute psychotic break, you hardly have teams that are out there. That is underfunded. When they go to the hospitals, they're kept on the regular wards, and the staff cannot manage them. And in many instances, they are right in the emergency departments beside acutely ill patients. You have someone with a heart attack here and a psychotic patient making a lot of noise, being boisterous. The system is just not working. And whereas I commend the idea that you're looking for, the idealistic approach, we have to do something now. And there must be something in the budget, some reallocation, where you can fix up some wards or pay attention to some of the community, the parish hospitals, type B hospitals, type C hospitals, and see if we can address that psychiatric issue.
Member, first of all, I think if you want to explore the full policies and programs of mental health, you have to go way beyond what those manifested symptoms are suggesting, which are not good, and I accept that. But mental health has become a bigger problem than it has been over the last decade for a number of reasons, which I won't go into. And the ministry has been tackling the mental health challenges at all levels of the society. And I can give you information on the schools, where we have trained over 500 teachers to recognize challenges with students. The award-winning Do Your Share project, which won an award in London last week for its effectiveness on the ground, that involves the wellness bench and all the other things that go with that at the level of schools. We have actually expanded some of the mobility at the parish level. Still need to do more, so I'm not suggesting that it is perfect. And you also have to make a connection between the very infrastructure build-out that you cited earlier and the capacity to treat with, among other things, mental health cases. So the Cornwall Regional and Western Child and Adolescent will move the capacity of that location to almost 700 beds from the 400 and that or so where it was originally. That capacity will allow for better facilities and treatment. Spanish Town Hospital will add bed capacity, similarly so, and I could go on and on. So while I do agree that the cases that have represented deviant behavior and where innocent victims have been, persons have become victims, and that's something we need to deal with whenever it happens and try to prevent it. It's not to take away from the fact that a lot has been done, even though more needs to be done, and that the government is pursuing a more holistic approach from the schools, in the communities, and through the expansion of some of the infrastructure that is taking place. So I do expect to have a more effective strategy based on all of these developments, including the Bellevue's development.
Okay. Object 25, use of goods and services. Notice there's a cut from last year. Is this sufficient to cover the patient, food, security, whatever it is, all the different obligations? Or have you in the past had to give them a supplementary budget? And if yes, would a cut following the necessity of a supplementary budget be prudent?
Can I get the page on the line item?
420345. 25. Use of goods and services.
All right, so I need to check on it because the budget for Bellevue goes directly to the Ministry of Finance, not to the Ministry of Health. I don't know if you know that that's the arrangement. So I would need to find out from the Ministry of Finance what was submitted versus what was allocated. We don't have the rationale within the Ministry of Health and Wellness. There may be, and I'm just speculating here, maybe I shouldn't, but the population of Bellevue has actually declined over time. So So the need for a budget to support the population may be the justification for the reduction. When I started as minister in 2016, Bellevue had, I believe it had just over 1,000 persons. I think right now Bellevue's population is closer to 600, if I'm not mistaken. So that reduction would possibly account for the reduction in the goods and services.
Based on your numbers, there hasn't been a significant reduction in the patients treated or patients rehabilitated to justify a fall in Object 25.
Well, it depends. It depends because it's also, it's not just a function of the numbers. All of the numbers have been reduced.
No, but you're saying the numbers are less. I'm telling you they're
less.
not.
They are less.
No. Over the time when I'm comparing, the numbers are not less.
Well, I had a meeting in the last month with the team at Bellevue, the chairman, and my report is that the numbers are less. So if you are seeing otherwise, I'd have to check to find out.
Well, I'm going off again, Minister, your numbers. And according to the numbers in the book, the numbers have not changed.
Not based on the report I have, but I'll check and get back to you.
All right. I just have to go with what is presented before me. Final question, Minister. The Cubans are no longer with us. I realize that there has been a termination of the program by attrition over the last few years, where contracts were not renewed and Cuban doctors and nurses who went back were never replaced. I don't know if it was understood that we would have reached this point, but have you done a gap analysis to say what are the needs right now? I think you have just under 300 doctors, nurses, biomedical engineers. I'm particularly concerned about the Cuban eye care program, which does more cataract surgery, I believe, than all public hospitals combined island-wide, and is the main source of eye care for Jamaicans who can't afford to go privately and pay the $500,000 for a cataract surgery. What is going to happen when they go back to all of those Jamaicans who depend on the Cuban eye care program in particular? And what are your plans for filling the gaps in the underserved areas, the community centers, the hospitals where no Jamaicans want to go for social reasons, and we fill them with Cubans? What is going to happen to staffing in those areas now?
Okay. So the first thing I want to say is that your opening statement is incorrect. The Cubans are still with us. We have over 280 approximately, and they're still at their post, still working, including the eye care program. So it's a little exaggeration to say that. We are coming from about just under 350, and the decline has started over the last maybe 6-8 months, based on the expiration of those work permits, based on the agreements we had originally for those persons. We have persons here who still have some time. I know what you're referencing. You're referencing the MOU with the Cuban government, which is a very different thing. And that has been the tradition to negotiate an MOU, which then leads to the engagement of the Cuban healthcare workers. That negotiation, as said in a release today, has been in discussions without an agreement for just under a year. The last point was that the counter proposal or proposal is with the Cuban government. They have not responded over a few months, and the government took the decision not to renew on that basis, having had a series of conversations. However, we have said that the health workers who are here have an opportunity, if they so desire, to engage in individual contracts. So this is not a termination of the desired relationship that we have. It's not a recognition of anything beyond what we have said publicly, that it has been a valuable relationship and we appreciate it, and it has helped the Jamaican people. And the offer is on the table for the workers who are here to have individual contracts, and that has been said publicly. The conversation continues. I don't know what will happen over the next week or 2 weeks, but suffice to say, the fluid nature of the conversation would not allow URI to say that the Cubans have gone, because they have not. But there is a discussion taking place. Now, to the issue of the contingencies, even with the Cuban program, the truth is we have always had shortages because of migration and the expanded responsibility of the sick profile and limited training. So we have, over a number of years, been working to expand the cadre of workers, from retention of those we have by improving some of the conditions of work. A lot of it's still a work in progress. You mentioned a number of the capital projects, through compensation review, which gave a fairly substantial increase to a number of workers. And thirdly, through collaboration, through financing, through the Barwin Scholarship, where there are a number of persons studying in the system, with some graduating this year. Can't give the figures, but some of these graduates are going to now be integrated into the system, because the bonding arrangement of 3 years after the scholarship is in effect. And the Barwin Scholarship is a 5-year program, and we're now going into our 3rd year. And some of the persons who got scholarships were studying for less than a year, especially the specialists. So we can provide some further details on that, but that will also help. In addition to that, we have over 100 trainees in various areas of specialization in in-house training, and those will start coming on stream later on this year. I'm told about June or so, which is not too long from now. And then finally, we have sought to do some overseas recruitment. Well, I have to be fulsome in the response. We're working on some overseas recruitment. Now, the overseas recruitment has taken several forms. We are waiting and possibly should be in a position to sign an MOU with Ghana. Ghana has an excess of healthcare workers. The Ghanaian foreign minister was here 3 weeks ago, I think. That was spoken about publicly. And he did comment that unemployment levels in Ghana is higher, 16% or so. They have healthcare workers who need jobs, including specialists, and they have a similar system to ours. And we have been able to work out an MOU to get some of those workers in. We have an MOU with Nigeria, but we got a few Nigerians recently. I think it was about 6 or so, including educators. And we are working on agreements with Philippines and India, where I visited recently. And then finally, as I said earlier, we had an ad in the paper for recruiting randomly, but targeting the diaspora. We had 136 expressions of interest, some extremely qualified. The point I'm making, member, is that we have a multi-pronged approach to dealing with the HR challenge. It is a challenge because healthcare workers globally are short, and any fallout from the Cuban agreement will, meaning persons going back as opposed to exercising the option to stay, will amplify that problem. And it's a risk, and we understand that, which is why all the other things have to be factored in and are being worked on simultaneously. And we will just have to make it work. And we're not just sitting down and not doing anything. We're doing a number of things.
I hope for the sake of everyone who relies on the system that we can find some substitutes.
I hope so too.
That would be all. Thank you, Minister.
Member Brown.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have basically 2 issues, Minister. Firstly, on page 42,002, line 29, where we have 500 million, is that the, what is called a compassionate grant?
Yes.
All right. So I want to ask 2 questions around.
No, that one is Barwin Scholarship.
Oh,
I just spoke to a while ago. This is a scholarship for people
all right.
studying.
Where would we find the compassionate grant?
It's here.
It-
Where is it? It's on activity 10922, 24, page 4206.
42,206. All right, thank you for that, Minister.
What's the question?
All right, access. How do the poor and those who really can't afford it access these resources? I give you a clear example, Minister. Last night, one of my constituents, she's 104 years old. She went to the Savanna-la-Mar Hospital. They initially diagnosed that she had a stroke. She was told to do an MRI. The family can't afford the MRI. And I am told, the CDF is finished. I am told that she was further advised that the hospital can't help her in terms of the diagnostic test that she was supposed to do. So, Minister, I believe that this is a frequent issue for MPs where constituents come to us for support for diagnostic services, MRI, CT scan. Yes, the CDF is there, but the CDF can't help, right? So my question is, Minister, how do our constituents access these resources?
All right, so can I just respond, member? You're a new MP, and except when you're a little rowdy in your area, you tend to be well behaved in the parliament.
Chairman, protect me, please.
Let me. There are a number. Hold on. There are a number of programs supporting citizens in the public system where services may not be offered for one reason or the other. The first stop, of course, is to go to your public health facility. Someone with a stroke, we have 7,200 persons who got a stroke last year. 2,400 died. The rest of them survived, and the public health system responded for the most part
she was there. She was at the facility.
Right.
Yes.
So the point I'm making
And
is
the
that
facility told her that
the point I'm making is that the system is designed to cater to those conditions. However, even what you have said about an MRI, if needed and not available, in this year's budget, we not only have the compassionate grant, which is approximately 500 million, which has a process to apply for.
And that's what I'm asking.
You go online, you apply. There's a committee chaired by Dr. Copeland, who is a retired doctor of public health, and a decision is taken. However, in a case like that, where it is a short-term, urgent case,
yes,
we have in the budget this year almost $2 billion on the technical support services for the outsourcing of diagnostic. So that person, the doctors should have identified in that parish where that provider is.
Okay.
And it's not an application process, it's a life-saving process.
All right.
They should write up a form and they could do it and not pay. So I don't know what transpired. I could check on it, but there's a process to do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. My final question, being parochial, the Savanna-la-Mar Hospital is a Type B facility. It is a premier hospital in the East. I'm looking at the capital budget, 42,000 C1, and I was hoping to see some amount of allocation there for some capital works at that hospital. Minister, in 2017, NHF had announced that they were going to, and I think you're aware of the A&E department. NHF had announced that they were going to construct a new waiting area. I've checked the public bodies document here with the National Health Fund. I'm not seeing anything there for that. Is there any plan to make good on the A&E department, which is well needed at the Anota Bay Hospital, which is a type B, caters for Portland, all of St. Mary?
Okay, I get the point, remember. Have you
Yes.
been there recently?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you don't have a reference point, but over the last 3 years, the Anota Bay Hospital has benefited from a new pediatric ward.
Minister, that's what
equipment-
that's
hold
what
on,
I'm
let me
asking
finish.
you about.
No, but
I know.
I'm coming to the
Okay.
specifics.
Yes.
New pediatric ward, new full electrical installation, new lab, and there are a couple other things. It has actually been upgraded, which is why the Type B designation.
Minister, the
could
lab
be
is not
considered.
finished.
It is in progress.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm
For
making.
about
Hold on,
5 years.
Let me finish now.
Yes.
The A&E is certainly the next step, but we have
Okay.
spent hundreds of millions of dollars on Anota Bay Hospital.
Yes.
And in fact, the patient satisfaction level is quite high there. But I'll have to check to see what this schedule is as it relates to A&E. But let it not be said that the government has not spent money.
I wasn't saying that. I was asking
Thank you.
specifically about the A&E.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister.
Okay.
Dr. Russell.
Thank you, Chairman. Minister, I have two questions. The first is a follow-up on the issue of access, and I hear your comment regarding activity 10633, technical support services. However, it doesn't address the systematic and the need for the access to these services to be systematic. You go into a hospital, you're sent out to get the tests done.
Member, please, question. We are late in the night now. Question.
So the question, Minister, is what are we doing to improve and to make it more seamless and allow the services to be available in the public services? We're talking about activity 10633. This is on technical support services. Because if you need a pin, a scan, we see it every day. It's a real problem, Minister. And I think all of us, we are in denial if we don't accept that this is a real problem facing. So, yes, what are we doing to improve access to diagnostic services?
Right.
So that we don't have to outsource it to the private sector?
And that's a good question. So we are hopefully going through a procurement process that I am hoping will be successful, because procurement tends to be drawn out, which is to lease and maintain diagnostic equipment, the more complex ones. I understand it's in the final stages to go to PPC, and I'm hoping that PPC will consider it favorably, then to Cabinet. What that will mean, and I've announced it, I announced it maybe a year and a half ago. What that will mean is that CT scans, MRI machines, and in some instances, digital x-rays will be placed in the hospitals that they are supposed to be in. And it will come differently this time with a maintenance schedule. The maintenance is a big issue. And where they have served their useful life, they will be replaced based on the contract that we would have with the particular supplier. So we're hoping that it will solve the issues, or at least some of the issues.
What's the time frame for us to start?
Well, as I said, I'm hoping it will go to PPC in short order. I don't have anything to do with procurement. I'm just guided by the PS and his team. But I'm told that they are now in that realm to go to PPC. Once it's successful, then we'll trigger that, and you'll see some improvements, more improvements. In the meantime, we have been buying diagnostics. We have bought digital X-ray machines at Cornwall, Falmouth, SAV, so KPH. So we have done some things, but I do agree that we need to do more, and more importantly, focus on the maintenance. That is normally the problem. Too much downtime because of lack of maintenance. Thank you.
My second and final question is something we've talked about before. St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital. It's bursting at the seams. We still have issues of people sitting in chairs for days because beds are not available. I was hopeful too that in the capital I would see something related to infrastructure development there. but I see nothing.
Ask a question,
So
member,
the
please.
question, yes. So the question, Minister, is what are we doing? What are you doing regarding the improvements, both in terms of service delivery and the access? Sorry,
Okay.
and the increase in the number of beds, etc. at St. Anne's Bay.
Right.
It just
So
cannot.
the St. Anne's Bay Hospital is under the HSSP, the Health System Strengthening IDB funded program, as is happening at Spanish Town and the other health centers. So what we're gonna have we're gonna have about 3 upgrades: radiology, outpatient clinic, and ICU, which will mean more space, freeing up some space for additional beds, and of course, with a more efficient radiology department, it will mean faster processing of patients. Normally, patients wait because they're waiting to do a MRI or otherwise. So you will be very happy to know that St. Anne's Bay Hospital is slated for significant development.
Thank you, Minister. Member from
Sorry,
Central
Chairman.
Westmoreland. Central Westmoreland.
Thank you.
Chairman, just
One question, Minister. One simple question.
no man, may I
The
follow?
Savanna-la-Mar Public General.
You said,
I
member, you
didn't
said
say
the
last, but
final
I'm following
question.
up too. I'm following up. It's a follow. I'm going to ask the question a long time.
Member from Central Westmoreland, turn the mic on, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minister, just one question. Read the Savanna-la-Mar Public General Hospital. I just want to find out where will the funding be coming from? Read the A&E department that was announced from July. There was another statement this week. We are close to completing the cost and going to procurement soon. But I'm not seeing it in the budget. So I just want to find out where exactly will the funding be coming from.
So I know. So the costing for the A&E, the new A&E at Sab Hospital, will be coming from the Melissa Hurricane Redevelopment Fund, which Cabinet has already approved. We just need to complete the costings and then determine the procurement process. But that funding is in place. For the building, yes, for the new A&E.
Please be concise.
Minister?
Question only.
2 quick questions, Minister. Are you aware that there is only 1 functional ambulance at the Princess Margaret Hospital?
I'm not aware. But I'll check on it.
Please do, sir. I would appreciate it very much because it is in fact factual. You can check with your...
Question, Ms. Shaw. Member Shaw, question.
Why am I generating so many...
Focus,
Yeah.
focus, Member Shaw. Question.
Are you aware, Minister, that there are limited bed spaces at the Princess Margaret Hospital? I was elected...
I'm not aware.
Allow the minister to respond to the member, please.
I'm saying that I am not aware, but I think you have to consider bed count and bed availability in the context of time and seasons. So if there may be times when you have a shortage, there may be times when you have an excess. It depends on what's happening. So you would probably have to be more specific. But if you want me to look at it in a general way, I will.
No, put the page.
We now put the pages. Head for 42,000, Ministry of Health and Wellness, pages 1 to 16 as amended. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Head 42,000C, Ministry of Health and Wellness, capital, pages 1 to 12. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Head 42034, Belleview Hospital, pages 1 to 6. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Head 42035, Government Chemist, pages 1 to 5. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Head 42062, National Council on Drug Abuse, pages 1 to 5. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Thank you, Minister, and your team.
Thank you very much.
We are, thank you. Thank to the Ministry of Health and the team. We have 2 ministries to go, Chair.